The ship drifted through the quiet of space like a silver arrow. Inside, Darren, a young human envoy, watched the blue-green planet below with calm eyes. The planet was called Luria, home of an ancient alien empire that had cut itself off from the galaxy hundreds of years ago. Rumors said its people feared humans. Some believed humans were monsters made of metal and fire. Darren's task was to change that belief. He had been chosen not for his strength but for his patience. The Council of Earth had sent him with one message: peace. His small vessel carried no weapons, only a translator, a few gifts, and his courage. As the ship entered the planet's thin atmosphere, Darren could see long rivers of silver water and wide fields that glowed under the twin suns. A voice came through the translator. "Human vessel, you are entering restricted airspace. Identify yourself." Darren pressed the transmitter. "This is Envoy Darren from Earth. I come under the white banner. I bring words of friendship." There was a pause before the voice returned. "Remain where you are. You will be guided to the palace grounds." His hand stayed steady on the controls as golden lights appeared in the sky. 4 Lurian escort crafts surrounded him. Their designs were unlike any human ship. Each looked like a gliding feather, glowing softly as if alive. Darren followed their lead toward a massive structure that rose from the valley below. The Palace of Lurea was made of crystal stone, tall and curved like the wings of a bird. It shimmered with the light of the suns. When the ship landed, the ramp extended with a hiss of air. Darren stepped down slowly. The ground beneath him was smooth and white. Soldiers stood in perfect formation. Their armor shone like glass, and each held a long silver spear that pulsed faintly with energy. None spoke. Their eyes followed his every move. A tall figure stepped forward. Her armor was marked with gold lines, showing she was an officer. "You will come with us." "The princess is waiting," Darren nodded. He followed the officer through wide halls where walls seemed to breathe with light. Strange symbols floated in the air, forming words in an alien tongue. Darren's translator whispered the meaning softly in his ear. Every symbol told a story of old wars, victories, and warnings about outsiders. They entered a large chamber filled with soft light. At its center stood a raised platform surrounded by vines that shimmered like glass threads. Upon it stood Princess Aria, the heir to the Lurian throne. She wore robes of deep silver and blue, and her eyes glowed faintly like the stars. She had never seen a human in her life. When Darren entered the chamber, the guards tensed. The princess's eyes widened. She expected a creature of metal or a being of rage. Instead, she saw a calm man wearing a simple white suit, carrying no weapon, only a small case. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched like a bridge between two worlds. Aria's voice finally broke it. "So this is what a human looks like." Her tone was firm, but her eyes showed curiosity. Darren bowed slightly. "I thank you for receiving me, Princess of Luria. I come to speak for peace between our people." "Peace?" she repeated. "Humans do not know that word. The last time your kind came near our space, our moons burned." Darren met her gaze. "Those were not our people. That was a time of confusion. We come now to build trust, not fear." The chamber grew quieter. Advisors whispered among themselves, their faces sharp with suspicion. One of them, an older Lurian with silver skin, stepped forward. "Words are easy. Your kind uses words to hide blades. Why should we believe you?" Darren opened his case. Inside were 3 items: a small globe of Earth, a seed from a human forest, and a data crystal containing the message of the Earth Council. He placed them on the ground before the throne, because these are gifts, not weapons. The seed grows in peace. The globe shows our home. The crystal carries a message of friendship. Princess Aria stepped closer, her robes brushing the light vines. She studied the globe, then the seed resting on his palm. "It is alive," she said softly. "Yes," Darren replied. "It grows under the same stars we all share." Her hand hesitated above the seed, then touched it lightly. A faint green glow spread across her fingers. Her breath caught in surprise. The advisors watched, unsure what to think. The glow faded, leaving silence behind once again. Aria turned her eyes to Darren. "You came alone. Were you not afraid?" "I was," he said truthfully. "But fear is not reason enough to hide. Someone must take the first step." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but not anger either. "You speak like one who has seen much." "I have seen enough to know that stories can lie," Darren answered. "And I hope we can learn the truth together." The princess looked at him for a long moment, and something shifted in her eyes. The image of humans she had carried all her life began to fade. She saw no monster, no machine of war, only a man who stood calm under the weight of her judgment. At last she turned to her guards. He will stay in the guest quarters. No harm is to come to him. I will decide his fate after the council meets. The guards bowed and led Darren away, though their eyes still watched him closely. As he followed them through the glowing corridors, he felt the weight of many stares. Every step echoed softly, marking the beginning of something that might change both their worlds. In her chamber, Princess Aria stood alone. The seed still glowed faintly in her hand. She could feel warmth where it had touched her skin. The feeling was unfamiliar. For the first time in her life, she wondered if everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. Outside, the night of Lurea fell gently over the palace. The stars burned bright, and high above, a small human ship rested quietly on the landing platform. The silent landing had ended, but the true journey had just begun. Morning light spread across the towers of the Lurian palace. The air shimmered softly as two suns rose over the horizon. The city below the palace was alive with movement, full of silver bridges, floating gardens, and towers that seemed to hum with quiet energy. The people of Lurea lived in beauty and peace, but fear of the unknown still ruled their hearts. Inside the palace, Princess Aria sat in her chamber, unable to sleep. The seed the human had given her was now placed in a glass bowl near the window. Overnight, it had sprouted a small green stem. No one in the palace had ever seen a plant grow so fast. She watched it sway toward the light, and she thought of the human's calm voice. Darren had not shouted nor begged for mercy. He had spoken with care, as if each word mattered. Aria had faced many envoys before, but none had stood before her with such quiet strength. Her maid entered the room and bowed. "Your Highness, the human has requested an audience. He says he wishes to understand our customs before the council meets." Aria hesitated. Allowing him to walk the palace again would anger the advisors, yet her curiosity was stronger than her fear. "Tell him I will meet him in the garden hall," she said. The garden hall was a vast chamber filled with trees of crystal leaves and fountains that glowed with soft light. It was the heart of the palace, where the royal family found peace in meditation. When Darren entered, two guards followed him closely, but he did not seem bothered by their presence. He bowed once more. "Princess Aria, thank you for meeting me." She stood beside the fountain and studied him. "You are bold to ask for another meeting. Most who come here do not speak again until the council decides their fate." "I mean no disrespect," Darren said. "I only wish to understand the world I have come to." She gestured toward the glowing trees. "Then look around you. This is Lurea. Our world breathes light. We live in harmony with what grows and flows. We have no need for machines that destroy." Darren looked up at the silver leaves. "It is beautiful. On Earth, we also try to live with our world. We have made mistakes, but we have learned from them. The stars taught us that we are not alone." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak as if you understand our ways, yet your people once brought fire to our moons." Darren nodded. "Those were not explorers. They were soldiers from a war long past. Humanity has changed. We do not seek to rule. We seek to share." Aria turned away, walking along the fountain's edge. Words again. Always words. "You humans think you can heal history with talk." "Then let me show you action," Darren said gently. He reached into his case and took out a small silver cube. He placed it on the ground, and it opened like a flower. A faint image appeared above it, showing a green valley with people working together to plant trees. "This is what we do now. Earth has joined with other worlds to rebuild places once destroyed. We bring life where there was none." Aria watched the image carefully. The people in the vision were humans and aliens together, smiling as they worked. The sight stirred something in her heart. "You could have shown power or weapons," she said quietly. "Yet you show life." "Because that is the greatest power," Darren replied. "Life is what connects us." The princess looked at him with new eyes. For the first time, she saw more than a stranger. She saw a being who carried hope instead of threat. Still, her duty was to protect her world. "You speak well, Darren of Earth," she said. "But my people will not be easily convinced. They remember too much pain. The council will demand proof of your word." "Then let me earn that proof," he said. "Let me see the archives of your world. I believe the truth of our past lies there." Her eyes widened. "The archives are sacred. No outsider has ever seen them." "I understand," Darren said. But if there is a misunderstanding between our histories, it must be cleared. I do not wish to change your beliefs, only to find the truth together." Arya hesitated. The idea of taking a human into the sacred archives was unthinkable, yet something deep inside her whispered that this might be the moment her world needed. The seed she had planted was already growing. Perhaps trust could grow too. "I will think on your request," she said finally. "Until then, you will remain under guard. No harm will come to you, but you may not leave the palace." Darren bowed. "I accept your command, Princess." He turned to leave, but before he stepped away, Arya spoke again. "Tell me something. What makes you so certain that peace is possible?" He looked at her with calm eyes. "Because fear only ends when someone chooses to stop running from it." His words stayed with her long after he left. Arya stood beside the fountain, watching the ripples of light move across the water. She thought of her father, the king, who had died believing that humans were enemies. She thought of her people, who had lived for generations under that shadow. That night, the palace echoed with quiet whispers. The advisors gathered in secret rooms, debating what to do with the human envoy. Some said he should be sent away before he caused confusion. Others feared that harming him would bring retaliation from Earth. The court was divided. Meanwhile, in the guest quarters, Darren sat near the window of his small room. He could see the twin moons of Lurea rising above the hills. He thought of the faces he had seen in the garden hall, and of the princess who had looked at him not as a threat, but as a question waiting for an answer. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. Fear ran deep in the hearts of all species, but he also knew that hope could begin with a single act of understanding. In her chamber, Princess Arya watched the small plant that had grown from the human seed. It now had 2 bright green leaves reaching toward the light. She placed her hand near it and felt a soft warmth. It reminded her of the human's voice and his steady calm. For the first time in her life, she wondered not what humans had taken, but what they might bring. The thought made her heart uneasy, yet strangely light. As the night deepened, the palace fell silent. The stars above Lurea shone brighter than ever, as if watching 2 worlds take their first uncertain steps toward each other. The princess did not yet know it, but her decision would soon change the history of both worlds forever. The sun rose slowly over the shining towers of Lurea. The palace glowed in soft gold light, and the air was calm. But inside Princess Arya's mind, a storm was building. She had spent the night thinking about the human's words. Every time she looked at the small green plant growing in her chamber, she remembered his voice and the truth in his eyes. By morning, she made her choice. She would take Darren to the archives. The archives were the oldest part of the palace, built deep below the main towers. They held the records of the first contact between Lurians and humans. No outsider had ever been allowed there. Only the royal family and a few scholars were permitted to enter. Arya called for her guards and her advisor, Aaron, a tall man with sharp features and silver skin. When she told him her decision, his eyes widened. "You cannot mean this, Princess," Aaron said. "The archives hold sacred history. Allowing the human to enter would be an insult to our ancestors." "I understand your concern," Arya replied calmly, "but our people have lived in fear for centuries. If this human speaks the truth, we must see it with our own eyes. If he lies, the archives will expose him." Aaron bowed, but his face showed unease. "Very well, Princess. But the council will not be pleased. I will take responsibility," she said. A short time later, Darren was escorted to the great stairway that led below the palace. He looked calm, though his heart beat faster. The guards carried small lanterns that glowed with blue light as they descended into the earth. The air grew cooler and the walls began to shine faintly, as if made of crystal veins. At last they reached a great door carved with strange symbols. Arya placed her hand on the center of the door. The crystals within the carvings lit up and slowly opened, revealing a vast hall filled with light. Rows upon rows of floating tablets drifted in the air, each showing images of the past. Some told stories of ancient battles, others of kings, explorers, and great discoveries. The air hummed softly with energy. "This is the memory of our people," Arya said. "Every event from our first flight to the stars is kept here." Darren looked around in awe. "It is beautiful. I have never seen anything like this." Arya walked toward one of the glowing tables. "Here lies the record of our first contact with humans," she said. "The story we have known all our lives." She touched the tablet and a bright image appeared in the air. It showed human ships entering Lurian space, their engines blazing. The vision showed fire raining on the moons of Lurea and Lurian ships burning as they fought back. The image ended with a human fleet leaving behind ruins. Arya turned to Darren. "This is what we remember, the day humans came and brought destruction. Tell me, do you deny it?" Darren studied the images carefully. "I do not deny that this happened," he said slowly. "But I believe there is more to the story. May I look at the record closely?" Arya nodded. "You may." He moved closer to the tablet and pressed a button on his translator device. A soft light scanned the symbols around the image. The translator began to read the data behind the vision. Words appeared on a small screen. After a few moments, Darren looked up. "Princess, this record was changed long ago. Parts of it were erased and replaced." Arya frowned. "That is not possible. Our archives are sacred and protected." "I know," he said, "but this record carries signs of old data corruption. It shows that before this version was made, there was another." He showed her the screen. "This file is marked with an ancient Lurian code. If we unlock it, we may see what truly happened." Arya hesitated, then placed her hand over the crystal once more. The tablet glowed, and lines of light shifted across its surface. A hidden layer appeared beneath the original vision. The new image formed slowly. It showed something very different. The first human ships that came to Lurea were small and peaceful. Their crews wore exploration suits, not armor. They carried tools and machines for study, not weapons. The humans and Lurians met with smiles. Trade and learning began between them. For years they worked together. Then another fleet appeared, not from Earth, but from a rival world that used human technology. They attacked both humans and Lurians. The real human explorers died trying to defend Lurea's moons. The false story had been created by those who took power afterward, hiding their shame behind lies. When the image faded, silence filled the hall. Arya stood frozen. The truth shook her heart. Everything she had believed since childhood was wrong. Her ancestors had built their empire on fear and lies. Darren did not speak. He only waited, giving her space to understand what she had seen. Finally, Arya whispered, "All these years we hated your kind for something they never did." "Yes," Darren said softly. "Fear can grow faster than truth, Princess. It can hide in stories until no one remembers what really happened." Her eyes filled with sadness. How could we have lived in ignorance for so long? How many chances for peace have we lost? He looked at the shining walls around them. "You have found the truth now. That is what matters. The future can still be written differently." She turned to him. "If I speak of this, the council will not believe me. They will say you changed the record to deceive us." "Then let me stand beside you when you tell them," Darren said. "Let me face their judgment. I came here for peace and I will not leave until it is real." Arya stared at him for a moment. His courage was quiet but strong. He was only one man in a palace of thousands, yet he stood as if he carried the strength of an entire world. She nodded. "Very well. We will present this to the council tomorrow. I will call them together at sunrise." They began to leave the archives, but as they reached the stairway, Aaron appeared with 2 guards. His face was dark with anger. "You should not have brought him here, Princess," he said. "You have broken the law of the throne." Arya raised her chin. "The law is meant to protect truth, not hide it. You will stand aside, Aaron." He looked from her to Darren, his expression full of distrust. "You are being deceived. This human will destroy us." "No," Arya said firmly. "He has given us back our history. Tomorrow the council will hear the truth." Iran stepped aside, but his eyes showed warning. "If you bring this to the council, there will be chaos." "Then let there be chaos," Arya said. "Better that than living in lies." As they walked back toward the light of the upper palace, Darren felt both hope and tension. The truth had been found, but truth was often the hardest thing to protect. That night, while the city of Lurea slept under the twin moons, the princess stood by her window again. The small plant from the human seed had grown taller, its leaves spreading wide. She touched one of them and felt its gentle pulse of life. She whispered to herself, "If a seed can grow in foreign soil, maybe trust can too." The next dawn would decide the fate of 2 worlds. The morning of the council meeting arrived with a red sunrise over the silver towers of Lurea. The palace was alive with noise. Messengers ran through the halls, guards lined every doorway, and the air was filled with whispers. The news had spread that the princess was bringing the human envoy before the Great Council to reveal something about the old war. Princess Arya stood before her mirror as servants helped her prepare. Her royal robe was white with silver threads that shimmered like water. The weight of her crown felt heavier than ever. She looked at her reflection and tried to calm the storm inside her heart. She had made a choice, but she did not know what it would cost. Outside her chamber, Darren waited with 2 guards. He wore his simple white uniform, clean but plain beside the rich robes of the Lurians. Yet there was a quiet strength in his eyes. When Arya stepped out, he bowed respectfully. "Are you ready, Princess?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "I am as ready as I can be." They walked together through the grand hallway that led to the council chamber. The walls were lined with ancient statues of past rulers, their eyes carved to look upon all who entered. At the end of the hall, great doors of crystal stood open, revealing a vast circular room filled with light. Inside sat the members of the Lurian Council, 12 elders dressed in long robes of blue and silver. At the center stood the throne seat, empty since the king's passing. The chamber was quiet as the princess and the human stepped forward. Counselor Aaron rose first. His face was calm but his tone sharp. "Princess Arya, you bring a human into our most sacred hall. Do you understand the meaning of this act?" "I do," Arya said firmly. "And I ask that you listen before you judge. The truth of our past has been hidden from us. I have proof that the humans we feared were not our enemies." The room stirred with murmurs. Several counselors exchanged uneasy glances. Iran lifted a hand. "Proof from what source?" "From the royal archives," she said. "The human helped me uncover a lost record. The true history of the First Contact War." Gasps filled the chamber. Aaron's voice hardened. "You allowed this outsider into the sacred archives? That is forbidden by royal law." "I did what was necessary," she answered. "You will see why." She raised a small crystal sphere. Light filled the air above it, projecting the recovered images from the archives. The vision appeared clearly for all to see. It showed the first human explorers arriving peacefully, sharing knowledge and tools. Then came the attack by a false fleet from another world. The humans died protecting Lurian colonies. The truth was plain. When the vision ended, silence covered the chamber. The counselors sat frozen, unsure how to speak. Iran was the first to break the quiet. "This cannot be real. The archives must have been corrupted." "The human has deceived you." Darren stepped forward. "I have not changed your records. The truth was already there. I only helped reveal it." The elder counselor's eyes burned with distrust. "You expect us to believe that your kind came to save us?" "Humans bring war wherever they go." Darren's voice was calm. "We are not perfect, but we learn. We have made mistakes, yet we strive to build peace. I came here unarmed. I stand here in hope, not in power." A younger counselor stood. "If this vision is true, then our history has been a lie. Our people have lived in fear for centuries. How can we admit this without breaking our unity?" Arya looked around the chamber. "Our unity built on lies is weaker than truth. If we continue to hide from what really happened, then we will remain prisoners of fear." The debate began to grow louder. Some shouted that the human must leave the planet at once. Others said the truth could not be ignored. Voices clashed across the chamber like thunder. Iran turned to the guards. "Take the human away until the council decides." Arya raised her hand sharply. "No, he stays under my protection." Iran's expression hardened. "Your Highness, you endanger yourself and your people. This human has filled your mind with false hope." "He has shown me truth," Arya said, her voice steady. "I saw it with my own eyes." Iran stepped closer. "And if you are wrong, if this is a trick to weaken us, you would risk the safety of all Lurea for one stranger?" Arya faced him without fear. "If peace is the risk, then I accept it. We cannot live in the shadow of hate forever." The chamber grew tense. Guards hesitated, unsure whose orders to follow. The air shimmered with the hum of the crystal walls. Darren stood silently beside the princess, his posture calm but ready. Finally, an older counselor spoke from the far side of the hall. His voice was soft but strong. "I was a young officer during the last human war. I saw things that never made sense. Ships that attacked with strange markings, weapons not built by Earth. Perhaps the princess speaks the truth. Perhaps we were misled." His words changed the room. The noise slowly faded as the elders turned toward him. The weight of his memory gave strength to Arya's case. Iran clenched his fists. "You cannot overturn centuries of law based on one story." "It is not one story," Arya said. It is the beginning of a new one. You can choose fear or you can choose to see for yourself. She turned to the guards. Release the human. No one will touch him. I will answer for this decision. The guards obeyed. Darren stepped forward, bowing his head to the council. I ask for nothing but a chance to build trust. Earth wishes to stand beside Lurea as a friend, not a master. The eldest counselor looked around the room. We will not decide this today. The truth you have shown us must be studied. Until then, the human will remain under the princess's watch. No harm shall come to him, Arya bowed. Thank you, honored elders. As they left the chamber, the tension hung heavy in the air. The hallways outside were crowded with guards and servants whispering rumors. Some looked at Darren with suspicion, others with cautious respect. Iran followed them to the steps outside. You have started something that cannot be stopped, Princess. The people will not easily accept this. I do not expect them to, she said, but they deserve the truth. He gave a cold nod. Then prepare yourself. Storms do not end easily. When he was gone, Arya turned to Darren. You stood before them with courage. I thank you, he smiled faintly. Truth gives courage, Princess, and you gave me the chance to speak it. They walked together toward the garden hall where the air was calmer. The fountain sparkled under the sun, and the crystal tree swayed softly. The small plant that Darren had brought now had a single white flower blooming at its top. Arya touched it gently. Even the smallest seed can grow through stone, she said. Then there is hope for both our worlds, Darren replied. Above them, clouds gathered slowly, dark but bright at their edges. The people of Lurea could feel that change was coming. Some feared it, some welcomed it, but none could stop it. That evening, as the sun set behind the palace, the princess stood on the balcony and watched the glowing sky. She thought of the council, of Iran's warning, and of Darren's steady faith. She knew the hardest part was still to come. The storm had begun, and there was no turning back. The next morning began with a gray sky over the shining city of Lurea. A soft mist hung over the palace towers, and the streets below were filled with quiet tension. Every citizen had heard the same news. The human envoy still lived, and the princess had defied the council. Some whispered that she was brave. Others said she was a fool. Princess Arya stood on her balcony, looking down at her people. She could see lines of soldiers guarding the gates, and above them, banners of the royal crest waving in the cool wind. Inside her heart, fear and hope battled like two storms. A soft knock came at her door. It was Darren, standing tall but calm. He had not slept much, yet his face showed no weakness. The council has called again, he said. They wish to see us both, Arya nodded. I expected that. The truth has shaken them. They must decide what to do next. They walked together through the great halls. The palace that once felt peaceful now felt heavy. Servants stopped to bow as they passed, their eyes wide with wonder. None had ever seen a human walk beside their princess. When they entered the council chamber, the elders were already seated. The air was thick with silence. At the center stood Iran, his silver armor polished and gleaming. He looked at the princess with calm anger. Princess Arya, he said, the council has considered your actions. You broke royal law by opening the archives to an outsider. Many believe you have been deceived, yet others believe your discovery could bring change. Today we decide what path Lurea will take. Arya stood tall. Then I will speak for the path of truth. I will not deny what I have seen. The archives revealed that humans were not our enemies. They came in peace and we destroyed that peace with lies. I cannot stand silent while history remains false. The elders murmured among themselves. Some nodded slightly. Others frowned. Iran turned toward Darren. You stand accused of tampering with our sacred records and spreading false hope. What do you say in your defense? Darren stepped forward. His voice was steady. I came to your world unarmed. I brought only a message of peace. I touched no record except with your princess's permission. What we found was already written. I only wish for both our people to understand it. The eldest counselor raised his hand. His face was lined with age and wisdom. The truth is clear, he said slowly. But truth alone does not bring peace. It must be accepted by all. Iran stepped closer to the center. And what if the people do not accept it? Our world has lived in unity under the belief that humans were monsters. If we change that story, the very foundation of our rule may crumble. Then let it crumble, Arya said firmly. A lie cannot be the foundation of an empire. I will not lead my people through fear. Iran's eyes darkened. You would destroy everything your ancestors built? I would free it from the chains of deceit, she answered. The chamber filled with voices again. Arguments rose and fell like waves. Some elders supported Aria, others demanded that the human be expelled. Finally, the eldest counselor struck his staff upon the floor. Enough, he said. This matter must not divide us further. There is one way to settle this. We will allow a meeting between our people and the humans of Earth. If what the princess and the envoy say is true, then we will see it with our own eyes. Iran frowned but did not argue. The others agreed. Arya turned to Darren. Will your people come if called? He nodded. They will come in peace. That evening the message was sent through the sky. A signal of white light rose from the highest tower of Luria, traveling across the stars. On its path it carried a simple invitation from the Princess of Luria to the leaders of Earth. For 3 days the city waited. People gathered in the plazas watching the heavens. Some prayed for safety, others waited with curiosity. Soldiers stood ready, unsure of what to expect. Then on the 4th night the stars above the city moved. A great human vessel appeared in orbit, shining silver against the dark sky. Smaller ships descended slowly toward the palace courtyard. The people gasped as the first human delegation stepped onto Lurian soil. They wore suits of white and blue, with symbols of peace upon their chests. They carried no weapons. At their front was a woman named Captain Mira, leader of Earth's Peace Corps. She bowed deeply before Princess Arya. By the request of Earth Council, we come to honor your invitation, Princess of Luria. We bring friendship and understanding. Arya bowed in return. You are welcome, Captain Mira. Today 2 worlds will speak as equals. The Lurian Council stood behind her, silent but watchful. Aaron kept his hand near his weapon but did not draw it. In the open courtyard, both sides gathered around a large table carved from the stone of Luria's mountains. The meeting began under the light of the twin moons. Darren stood beside the princess as translator and witness. He explained the rediscovered truth, showing the records that proved the first human explorers had protected Luria long ago. The human captain confirmed the ancient names and missions from Earth's history. Every piece of evidence matched. Slowly, disbelief turned to acceptance. Even Iran's face began to soften as the facts became undeniable. The elders saw that their fears had no foundation. When the talks ended, the eldest counselor rose. For centuries we lived under shadows. Today we step into the light. Let this day mark the first alliance between our worlds. The courtyard erupted in sound. The crowd that had gathered outside the gates cheered. Bells rang through the city. The old fear began to fade like mist in sunlight. Arya turned to Darren, her eyes bright. You have given us more than peace. You have given us truth, he smiled. Truth is the strongest bridge between worlds. Later that night, when the visitors returned to their ship, Arya walked through the palace garden. The small plant that had once been only a seed from Earth now stood tall, its white flower glowing gently in the moonlight. She knelt beside it and smiled. Her maid approached quietly. Your Highness, the people are celebrating in the streets. They call it the Day of Union. Arya touched the plant's leaf. May it remind us that even the smallest seed can grow into something that changes everything. As she stood, Darren joined her once more. The night breeze moved gently between them. Our worlds will need time to trust fully, he said. Yes, she replied. But today, we took the first step. The twin moons of Luria shone high above them, reflecting in the fountains and the silver towers. The stars stretched across the sky like a promise yet to be fulfilled. Princess Arya looked toward the horizon where the human ships glowed softly in orbit. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she no longer felt fear. The alien princess who had once been unready now stood strong, her shock replaced by understanding. She had seen humanity not as a threat, but as a mirror showing what her own people could become. Beside her, Darren looked at the growing flower and whispered, Peace begins with one seed. And so, under the light of 2 moons, the first alliance between Luria and Earth was born. 2 worlds once divided by fear were now joined by hope. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of new beginnings.